In this video we'll tackle 1.5.2 of the ECC standard states that the organization's cybersecurity function must implement the risk management methodology and procedures that have been defined and documented in 1.5.1. This means that the cybersecurity team is responsible for putting the risk management plan into action, and ensuring that it is followed by all relevant parties within the organization. A key aspect of this control is identifying and assessing potential cybersecurity risks to the organization, and implementing appropriate measures to mitigate those risks. This can include implementing technical controls such as firewalls and intrusion detection systems, as well as developing policies and procedures for managing and protecting sensitive information. There are a variety of risk management methodologies that organizations can use to identify, assess, and mitigate cybersecurity risks. Some of the most commonly used methodologies include: one popular method is the NIST Cybersecurity Framework, CSF. The CSF is a framework that provides a common language and standard for managing cybersecurity risk, and it's widely used in the U.S. government and in many private sector organizations worldwide. The CSF is divided into 5 core functions: identify, protect, detect, respond, and recover. Each function includes a set of categories and subcategories, which organizations can use to assess their current cybersecurity capabilities and identify areas for improvement. Another method is ISO 27001, which is an international standard for information security management. It provides a systematic approach for establishing, implementing, maintaining, and continually improving information security management in an organization. It also provides a framework for setting information security policies and procedures, as well as for implementing security controls and monitoring their effectiveness. A third method is the COBIT, Control Objectives for Information and Related Technology, framework, which provides a set of best practices and guidelines for IT governance, including risk management. COBIT provides a high-level view of the IT process and the associated risks and controls, allowing organizations to identify and mitigate IT-related risks. An additional one is OCTAVE. This methodology, developed by the Software Engineering Institute, SE, at Carnegie Mellon University, is designed specifically for small and medium-sized organizations. It provides a structured approach for identifying and assessing risks and includes a set of templates and tools that organizations can use to manage risks. For each of these methodologies, it's important to involve key stakeholders from across the organization in the risk management process to ensure that risks are identified and assessed from different perspectives, and that relevant mitigation strategies are implemented. Additionally, it's recommended to use a combination of both quantitative and qualitative risk assessment methods as described in 1.5.1 control, and to conduct regular reviews and assessments of the organization's risk management processes and strategies. This will help to ensure that the organization is able to respond quickly and effectively to new and emerging risks, and to adapt its risk management strategies as needed. In order to implement any of these methodologies, organizations should first conduct a risk assessment to identify potential risks. This can be done using a variety of techniques such as interviews, surveys, and vulnerability assessments. Once risks have been identified, organizations should assess the likelihood and impact of each risk and prioritize them based on their risk rating. Next, organizations should develop a risk management plan that includes specific measures for mitigating the risks. This might include implementing security controls, developing incident response plans, or implementing security awareness training programs. To ensure that the risk management plan is effective, organizations should regularly monitor and assess their risk management activities. This might involve conducting regular security audits, reviewing incident reports, or analyzing security-related metrics. Here are some additional details on how to implement a risk management methodology. Identify risks. This involves identifying potential risks to the organization's information and technology assets. These risks can be identified through a variety of methods, such as interviews with staff, reviews of security logs, and assessments of the organization's technology environment. Assess risks. Once risks have been identified, they need to be assessed to determine their likelihood and potential impact. This can be done through a variety of methods, such as vulnerability assessments, threat modeling, and impact analysis. Mitigate risks. Once risks have been identified and assessed, appropriate controls need to be implemented to mitigate them. This can involve implementing security technologies, such as firewalls and intrusion detection systems, as well as developing policies and procedures to manage and protect sensitive information. Monitor and review. Ongoing monitoring and review of risk management practices and controls is essential to ensure that they remain effective. This can involve regular security audits and assessments, as well as ongoing monitoring of security logs and other data. Implement risk management software. In addition to manual risk management techniques, organizations can also implement specialized software to automate the process. Some examples of risk management software include RSA Archer, MetricStream, Resolver. One example of how this control might be implemented in a real-world scenario is a finance company. The finance company has identified that one of its main risks is a potential data breach, which could result in the loss of sensitive customer information. To mitigate this risk, the cybersecurity team implements a number of technical controls such as firewalls and intrusion detection systems, as well as developing policies and procedures for managing and protecting sensitive information. Additionally, the team also conduct regular security audits and assessments to identify any vulnerabilities or areas for improvement, and take steps to address them. To help understand the risk management process and keep track of identified risks and implemented mitigations, here is a table that includes the following fields can be used: risks, threat, impact, mitigation, example of how it has been executed, and risk rate, and any other relevant information. An example of a cybersecurity risk is phishing, where an individual may click on a link in an email from a fake bank website and enter their login credentials. To mitigate this risk, a company could use phishing simulation software or employee training. The last example of a risk is insider threats, which can be mitigated through background checks on employees, access control systems, and security information and event management solutions. It's important to note that risks may vary depending on the specific organization and its environment, so it's important to conduct a risk assessment tailored to the company's specific tools, processes, and business. In this table, the risks field would list the specific risks that have been identified, such as data breaches or phishing attacks. The threat field would describe the specific type of threat that poses the risk, such as a malicious actor or a natural disaster. The impact field would describe the potential consequences of the risk event occurring, such as loss of sensitive data or damage to the organization's reputation. The mitigation field would describe the specific measures that have been implemented to mitigate the risk, such as implementing firewalls or employee training. The example field would provide a real-world example of how the mitigation has been executed. The risk rate field would provide a numerical risk rating, and the comments field could include any additional relevant information. Here are some other ideas on how to implement risk management. One important step in managing risks is to conduct regular risk assessments. This should be done at least annually, or more often if the organization's environment or operations change significantly. This process involves identifying potential risks, assessing their likelihood and impact, and determining appropriate mitigation measures. Another important aspect of risk management is to maintain an inventory of the organization's information and technology assets. This includes identifying what information or assets are critical to the organization's operations and where they are located. This inventory can then be used to prioritize which assets are most important to protect and which risks should be prioritized. We'll discuss more on asset management in subdomain 2-1. One way to mitigate risks is to implement security controls. These can be technical controls such as firewalls, intrusion detection systems, and encryption, or non-technical controls such as policies and procedures for managing and protecting sensitive information. It's important to ensure that these controls are regularly reviewed and updated to keep pace with new threats and vulnerabilities. Another way to manage risks is to implement incident response and disaster recovery plans. These plans should be tested regularly to ensure that they are effective and that the organization is prepared to respond quickly and effectively in the event of a security incident. Overall, it's important to note that risk management is an ongoing process and requires regular review and updates to ensure it stays aligned with the changing threat landscape and the organization's evolving risk profile. Finally, it's important to keep the organization's employees informed about cybersecurity risks and how to mitigate them. This can include regular training and awareness programs, as well as clear communication of the organization's cybersecurity policies and procedures. This helps to ensure that everyone in the organization understands their role in protecting the organization's information and technology assets.